This is Jeanie and Will embracing and kissing on the sidewalk in East Hollywood. They met at a retirement home. Will moved in and saw Jeanie, and he immediately fell in love with her. Jeanie is an 81-year-old woman. She's divorced. She is an actress, a theater actress. William is a former owner of a print shop in Torrance, California, a bit of a wandering man, a mysterious man, and they met in the retirement home dining room, and William fell in love with Jeanie right away. I remember this moment very well, with Jeanie and Will embracing in this grocery store. And I remember Adina, who we see in the center of the frame with her little red bonnet, just going right into this hug. I was just so struck in this moment because there was such an openness that I hadn't seen. I knew from the first time I saw these three people that they had an seemingly unconventional relationship. And then when this happened, it really cemented to me that I was photographing a trio in a romantic connection. Adina was a fascinating woman of very few words. Even though her background was in linguistics, most of the time when we would wander around, she would barely say anything to anyone. And William met her at a retirement home in Los Angeles, and they started to date. He quickly moved into her apartment. They formed a relationship over 4 years. And then he was kicked out of that retirement home for getting into a fight with another resident. And they continued to be in a relationship even after he moved. And when William fell in love with Jeanie, he had to figure out how he could continue to maintain a relationship with Adina while also seeing Jeanie romantically. These are three older people, two of whom are in their 80s at this point as I'm photographing them, one in her 90s, Adina. And the three of them had very rich lives. So I think the relationship it's so much more than trying to escape loneliness, to get out of the retirement home, to go on these daily adventures. I think it was also for the three of them a new beginning in a time period that as a culture we tend to see as the end of people's lives. And for the most part, people didn't really look at them. And I often wondered, how is nobody noticing these three people walking around, holding hands, linking arms? How am I the only one who sees them? And they were totally unaware of me. And that is often the goal as a documentary photographer, is that people feel safe, comfortable with you, people trust you, that at some point you start to melt into the fabric of their lives. Here, Jeanie sits at a table in an ice cream shop by herself. I think she's facing here the reality that she can't have William to herself as much as she would want, and that she has to share him with Adina. And I think she's heartbroken here. We have Adina in the center of the frame. Adina had this openness about the relationship. One time she said to me, I said, tell me a bit about what you think about this relationship. She said to me, there are many different types of love. And I think ultimately When Jeanie was able to push forward with some of the jealousy and understandable insecurity she felt about sharing William as a partner with Adina, I think there was a kinship and a friendship that emerged that we see a glimpse of in this photograph between Jeanie and Adina. This was a recurring moment photographing them. We spent a lot of time at these bus stops, and this was tense. This was stressful at this point in the relationship because William had been kicked out of the second retirement home where he was living with Jeanie. So he had lived in a retirement home with Adina. He was kicked out of that community. He was then evicted from the community where Jeanie was living because he got into a fight with a resident who was flirting with Jeanie during a computer class. So he became homeless. And Jeanie and Adina were really concerned about him. And he was a man who wanted control. And he was a man who wanted power. And he wanted respect. And he felt incredibly vulnerable at this point. He had become wrapped up in a Social Security scam, and the person on the other end of the call was promising him a mansion in the Hollywood Hills with a landing strip, and he was really holding on to the dream and the fantasy that he would win this promised land and he'd be able to go live there with his two girlfriends. I definitely think that companionship was at the core of their relationship. And William was, in moments, an erratic, unpredictable person, but he did offer excitement. He offered mystery. At this point, William didn't have any furniture in his studio apartment. He had been kicked out of the retirement home where he was living with Jeanie. So he spent a period of time homeless in Los Angeles, and then he moved in to this studio apartment not far from Jeanie and Adina's retirement home. The pressure to follow certain norms seemed to have dissipated at this point in the relationship, and they were okay with just lying on this carpet for a period of weeks in a kind of cocoon at this point. I think the relationship amongst these three people certainly pushed back against certain conventions and belief systems around monogamy and how a relationship should operate and how older people should present in the world. I think Jeanie always hoped to just have Will for herself. And I think when he moved into the studio apartment and they could move into a private space together in moments, it was something that she found meaningful and rewarding because they could have these moments of intimacy together. You know, when I work with people and I shadow them and I form these relationships, I look at these photos and I don't see photos, I see relationships. William is looking down from his window at Jeanie after a fight, and he's wondering if she's going to come back to his apartment or just walk off back to the retirement home. This is towards the end of their relationship. At this point, he's had a series of episodes of rage, and the families of Adina and Jeanie are concerned about their mother's safety. And one day, William called me, and he said, Jeanie left with her son. Her family moved her into another retirement home in an area that William couldn't access. And he also never saw Adina again after this point. There had been allegations that William pushed Adina down a flight of stairs. She had gone to the hospital with injuries, and her family alleged that it was William who had pushed her. From here, he spent a lot of time wandering the streets of LA, Hollywood Boulevard, Santa Monica Boulevard, all of the streets that we had all walked down together. He walked down those streets and he looked for both of them, and he never saw them again. William managed to live until the age of 89. He experienced homelessness again. He was still in pursuit of his promised land, even though he was no longer involved with Jeanie and Adina, still believing that this scam could potentially be a real deal. I couldn't find him, and I kept searching for a few months, and finally I found out that he had passed away. To me, this project began with Jeanie and it ends with Jeanie for me. William often had such an influence on the movement of the story of the three of them, but I really thought it was important to have Jeanie clearly seen in the work. She just wanted to be free and be able to live for herself, and this chapter seemed to be it. You know, I have given my entire life to this work. It consumes me 24/7. And people, they give me their hearts, and I carry those hearts with me always. And every person I've documented, Jeanie, Will, and Adina included, they become a part of me. They have become a part of me.